Oh. And I'll just mute the group. There we go. All right. So we're going to have another full moon yin yoga class because this is the actual night for it. I don't know why I decided to do 2 this month, but I guess we really needed it. So this is a lunar eclipse, which is like the full moon times like 100. That energy, in a short period of time, the moon will go through all of its cycles within that lunar eclipse. And so that can be very emotionally stirring, and it can be very powerful. And that doesn't mean negative. It can just mean things that were below the surface are finally getting stirred up and brought to the surface to be evaluated. So, if you're noticing something like that, maybe don't resist, perhaps resist whatever emotions are coming up. Maybe just be curious and let your emotions be your teacher for what it's worth. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And this is a Taurus full moon, and the throat chakra is associated with the Taurus, the Taurus energy. And we'll kind of let that be, neck and shoulders will be a bit of focus tonight. So go ahead and arrive in your seats. And because this can be sort of an ungrounding time, I recommend one hand over your heart, the other hand over your navel. Start to draw on your breath. Let your inhale expand in both your chest and belly. And as you exhale, take a slow, steady exhale out through your mouth. We'll inhale again. Take a pause at the top of your inhale. And as you exhale, let it all go. So we're going to keep working with that pause tonight. Inhale, fill up. Pause. And exhale. Do 3 more breath cycles just like that. Inhaling to pause. And exhale to release. And then we'll take a large breath together. Inhale, fill up all the way. And as you exhale, let it all go. So we're going to start with interlaced fingers. Flip the palms up to the ceiling. And just take a moment to stretch side to side. You can even angle the arms forward if above your head doesn't feel quite right. And then we'll open the arms wide, take your right fingertips to the floor, coming into a side stretch. Then we're going to give our neck and shoulder a little bit of love. You're going to bend your left elbow down and then gaze up to the ceiling. And then stretch the arm over your head as you look down at the floor. So just some gentle movement. Every time you bend your elbow into your side, it's like you're hugging your shoulder blade into your spine. We'll take one more breath here. And then when you come up, that same hand that was on the ground, you're going to take your fingertips behind you, come into a seated spinal twist, twisting to your right. You're rooting down through the fingertips, lifting up through the sides of the waist and spine, gazing at the back wall. And let's take 3 deep belly breaths. So let your belly expand as you inhale, let it fill up. And as you exhale, draw your navel back to your spine. We'll do that 2 more times. Inhale. And exhale. And then we'll unwind and we'll do it all again. You'll just have your other leg on top, kind of changing the cross. You'll interlace your fingers, but the non-dominant way. So it'll feel like you're holding someone else's hand, and you'll Stretch up, lengthen up, get some space through the sides, like you're tractioning your spine, floating the ribs away from your pelvis. And then this time you'll take your left hand to the ground, side bend over. And then you'll bend your elbow, and as you bend your elbow, look up, inhale. Stretch the arm over your head as you exhale, and just start to find a little space, a little organic movement in that shoulder. Can you hug your shoulder blade into your spine as you bend your elbow? Last two. And last one. And then you'll sit up and you'll take the hand that was just on the floor, that left hand, you'll take it behind you and twist to the left. And you want to think of your spine as long and spiraling up to the ceiling. Take 3 big belly breaths here. Inhale, expand that belly wide. Exhale, navel draws back to the spine. We'll do that 2 more breaths. And then we'll come back through to center. Okay, we're going to traction our spine on our back next. So you're going to lie down, move whatever props you need out of the way. We will stay on our back. So you might grab a pillow or a blanket, have that near you for later. We're not going to use it right away. I'm going to go ahead and grab something for later. All right. So you'll lie on your back, feet are flat, knees are bent. And just take a moment to lie on your back and observe how you feel from right to left. So you might notice perhaps you're leaning to one side. Can you distribute the weight a little bit more evenly across both feet, both hips, both shoulder blades? And just notice if you're putting a lot of pressure in your pelvis, can you distribute some of that weight in your feet? Maybe you push more into your feet. And technically you could stay here and not do anything but this. And your shoulders could start to relax and your chest can open up. And this is technically a back bend compared to what we do all day when we're seated. So you could stay here or follow along with me. We'll interlace our fingers behind the head. Point your elbows up to the ceiling and curl your head, neck, and shoulders forward. And then one at a time, you'll hike one shoulder up by your ear, plant it back on the mat. You'll do that from side to side. Curl, hike, plant. Curl, hike a shoulder into the ear, plant that shoulder blade back. So it feels like you're slowly walking one shoulder blade at a time towards the back of your mat. And then there'll be a point where you can't go back anymore. You'll just pause. And then you'll feel the space you created in your back. So the upper spine has some traction. Now let's address the lower spine. Take the heels of your hands, slide them all the way up to the tops of your thighs. Push your thighs away from you. Let your tailbone drop to the floor. You'll feel like your low back is kind of arching off the ground a little bit. But do keep the back of your pelvis against the floor. We're not bridging our hips up. You'll kind of feel this weird kind of hurt so good maybe traction in the low spine. Take one big breath here. And as you exhale, relax. Notice how the low spine has a little more length. All right, we're going to get into the psoas now. We're going to stay here. You're welcome to stick a prop behind your head if that better serves your neck and shoulders. So when in doubt, stick a prop behind your head, and that'll soften your shoulders and neck a bit more. Separate your feet as wide as your yoga mat, knees are bent. And begin to windshield wiper both knees to the right and center, and both knees left. And you'll just do this back and forth a few rounds. Maybe coordinating your breath with that movement. The next time your knees fall to the right, keep them there. And this is our first yin pose. So this actually is a great, just as we are, is a great place to stay. You want to feel some sort of stretch. So it could be minor, it could be a little more intense, but the left thigh, left hip is getting its stretch. You can always support the knee. If the knee feels a little cranky here, you can stick a prop under that left knee. This might be where you stay. If you need more sensation in this pose, you could pick up your right foot and hook your heel over your left knee, and the weight of the foot can add to some length through that left thigh bone. You can even reach your arms back, get long through the waist here. And we want to get into a version of this pose where it feels really effortless, very comfortable. Where it feels like you can almost rest here. So we're going to find that pause within our breath, that inhale, fill up, pause at the top, exhale, let it all go. 3 more breaths on your own. Inhaling, pause at the top, and exhale. We'll take our final breath here. Inhale, fill up. And as you exhale, unwind. You can set both feet wide on the mat again. Pause with your knees bent and touching together. Take a moment to check in with your 2 hips. Notice what opened up or what shifted. And then we'll do the second side. So letting both knees fall to the left and then really listening to what your knees want. So if you feel pain in your knee, definitely stick a prop under your knee to help support it while it's here. Otherwise, you could just stay here and you might notice a pleasant amount of stretch in that right thigh or hip. Or you could hook your left foot on top of the right knee to add, but make sure it adds to the stretch. It doesn't feel like too much or unsustainable. You might reach your right arm back or both arms back. Feel like you're yawning the right hip, the right side of the body a little bit. Finding that pause between the inhale and exhale can be really grounding to the mind. So we'll take 3 breaths again. Inhale in through the nose. Hold softly at the top. Exhale, let it go. Inhale in through the nose. Hold at the top. And exhale. One more time, inhale. Pause the breath. And exhale. You can continue as many times as you like. We'll be here for about 30 more seconds. Letting yourself melt onto the floor. Take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, unwinding your legs, pausing in the middle, and just taking inventory, observing your two legs, your two hips. Then we'll roll to the side and press our way up to a seat. We are going to stay seated for a little shoelace pose. And you're certainly always invited to sit on a prop. So let's come into shoelace pose. So we'll have our right leg on top and our left leg on the bottom. So you'll bend both knees, and we want to feel as if we're moving the legs in the direction that one day the knee would stack on top of the other knee. So if you get here and it feels a little bit sensitive in the knees, just straighten your bottom leg. This will be the alternative for shoelace. Otherwise, both knees are bent. But we're also going to pick up our pelvis and move it a little bit over, actually a little bit over to the left. So both sitting bones are a bit more on the floor. Now, we want to be able to breathe. We want to be able to hang out here for a few minutes. So if you already feel lots of sensation, this is a big stretch. I recommend sitting on a blanket. It's going to make this, or any prop really, it's going to make this a bit more digestible, a bit more sustainable. So we're here. We're going to do a couple of things. So shoulders was kind of on the list today. So that right leg's on top. That means our right arm is going to lift up, and you're going to pat yourself on the back. You're going to grab that right elbow and you're going to pull it just behind your head. So you're creating a tricep stretch here for that right. And then push your head back a little bit more so your head's over your spine. We're going to pause here for about 10 breaths. And while we're here, can the shoulders relax down and away from your ears? So they might want to scrunch up. Can you notice that? And just let them disengage. You might have to wiggle them to get them to disengage, but they will. They'll get the memo. All right, you can keep this for 10 more breaths. We're going to be here a little longer. Or you can take your left arm, you're going to lower the arm down, and you're going to bend the left elbow and tuck the hand behind your low back. Now, you don't necessarily have to touch your fingertips together in the center of your back. It's more about having a flat back right now and bending your arms. So I'm going to turn around so you can see this a bit better. So try not to get stuck on the shoulds of this. We don't necessarily need to hook our hands to make this a powerful pose. We'll be here for 10 more breaths. Let this be our last breath. And then we'll unwind the arms. We're going to stay here a little bit longer. So you can stay just as you are upright, or you can fold forward any amount that you choose. All right, we'll slowly make our way up to a seat. And then however you want to come out of this, I like to use my hands to help unwind my legs. Maybe lean back on the hands and bounce the knees. And then we'll do the other side. So we're going to cross the left leg on top. You can kind of pull your feet back a little bit, maybe wiggle your hips over to the right. And decide if you want a prop under your hips or not. It just makes it more bearable. So we're going to decide how we want to stay. Start to ease into this with a few slow, deliberate breaths. And feeling the earth lifting up to hold our low body, letting our low body be heavy, almost like a sandbag against the ground. But then the upper body, the crown of the head, gets this feeling of upward lift, merging with the sky. So kind of feeling those two polarities. And then we'll take the left arm up, then the left elbow, and then grab it with your other hand. Pull it back, but then just very lightly push your head back so you're creating more of this tricep stretch. Spine is long. We'll be here just as is for 10 breaths, and then we'll have an option to go deeper after this. And notice what's clenching or tensing up or kind of reacting to this pretty deep pose. Can you let some of that soften? Can you give those areas permission to do a little less? All right, you can stay just as you are for 10 more breaths, or we're going to add on that right arm down, bend your right elbow, and have the back of your right hand against your middle back. And think more, how can you keep your spine long and less about gripping or touching your two sets of fingers together. And then notice if the shoulders are rising up, can we let the shoulders relax away from the ears? Let's take our last breath here. Inhale. And as you exhale, unwind. And then you can choose just to stay upright or tip forward a little bit or a lot, depending on your flexibility tonight. right, we'll make our way up, and you can unwind those legs however you need to. We are going to come to a kneeling position next, getting into the back of the shoulder and a little spinal twist. So however you want to get there, you're welcome to use any padding under your knees if you have it. All right, this is probably one of my favorite ones that I often forget about and then I remember to do. So we're going to come to hands and knees, and you're going to take your left arm, weave it across your mat, lay your left shoulder and your left temple down. And you want your hips high, you want them stacked over your knees. And then the right hand is just going to push steady into the ground just to give you a little more twist through your spine. Now notice that left shoulder blade, the back of the left shoulder blade. Can you move your breath right at the back of that shoulder blade? Notice if your hips are kind of falling to one side of your mat. Can you center both hips directly over both knees? Can you make space between both ears and shoulders? It's like the sides of your neck are very long. We'll take one big breath here. And as you exhale, press yourself back up to hands and knees. And then move how you like to before we go to the other side. Maybe come into child's pose if that feels good, and stretch your arms forward. You might notice a clearing in one shoulder. All right, other side. We'll come back up, hands and knees. This time, right arm is going to weave across your mat. Right shoulder and temple touch down. Hips are high. Your left hand, you're pushing into the ground. That's turning you into a twist. You're pulling your right hip crease back. If the hips are tilted to one side, can you recenter them? Let's take one more breath. And then let your exhale draw you back up. You can revisit your child's pose if you took that previously. Just notice how you feel. Okay, so that was the back of the shoulder. Now we're going to get into the front of the shoulder and into the pec muscle. We're going to lie on our belly and open our right arm out to the right like a letter T. So lying all the way down. Right arm out to the right. Look at your right hand. You want your palm on the ground and you want your hand at the height of your shoulder. Now you're going to press into your left hand and you're going to roll to your right. Let your head get heavy. Shoulders are stacked. Hips are stacked. I recommend keeping your legs stacked. Of course, there is a version where you can bend your top knee and step your foot behind you on the floor. But keep in mind, we're going to be here for a while. So maybe not an aggressive pose. Maybe make it more gentle tonight. You can also crawl your right fingertips away from you to deepen this stretch. Let your head become very heavy on the floor. Your neck is completely relaxed. Let's take one last breath here. And then as you exhale, roll to your belly once more, and you can pause before we go to the other side. Woo. All right, second side, you got your left arm out to the left, and then you're gonna roll to your side, stacking your legs, stacking your shoulders, maybe crawling your left arm further away. But using your right hand, really pushing into the floor with your hand to kind of lean you back in space, especially if you need more stretch. If your head is away from the floor and you can't get it to touch the floor, you can always put a prop under your head. We'll take our last breath here, and then roll onto your belly. And we're going to stay on our belly for just a second. And you can stack your hands under your head and just pause. Let your belly become heavy towards the ground, like the belly of the earth and the belly, your belly, are merging. And this might feel really good, and this might be all you need to stay here and just relax your hips and your belly. If you're wanting a more active back bend, however, you can join me. We're going to come up to our elbows. Our elbows are just in front of our shoulder line. They're about shoulder width apart. Then we want to open the fronts of our hips also. So you'll tuck all 10 toes under on the floor, and you'll start to push into your feet. Wiggle those hips back like you're elongating the front of your hips. You're going to be here to stay for a few minutes. So if you feel a kind of a sharpness in your low back that's a little uncomfortable, you might actually walk your elbows a little more in front of you to decrease that arch in your low back. Or you might be fine with that compression. We are creating some healthy compression in the spine in this pose. So it's normal to feel a little bit, but not anything uncomfortable. And so tonight is about the throat chakra. We're touching on this energy center and inside the throat. It's associated with speaking your truth, communication, and it's represented by this sort of a blue sphere of light. So if it helps you to kind of imagine a blue orb of light in your throat, I want you to imagine that. And then breathing into this blue orb of light, can you watch it expand throughout your throat and your sinuses? And as you exhale, allow this blue orb of light to travel back to the center of your throat again. So we'll take a few more breaths like that. Inhaling into your throat chakra, watching that blue expand throughout your throat. Exhale, the blue travels back to the center of your throat. We'll continue this on your own for 5 more breaths. We'll let that be our last breath. You'll widen your elbows, lower all the way down to your belly, stack your hands under your head. Maybe you float your feet up and windshield wiper them a little bit right and left just to release a little further. So we're going to now get into our hips, the inner hips again. We'll come up to tabletop and we're going to take pigeon pose. So if you know you like props for pigeon pose, you can stick a prop in front of you as we get into this. You can also lie down and take number 4 stretch if that better serves your knees. So we're gonna, from hands and knees, we're gonna take our right knee behind our right wrist, slide that right foot across the mat, kind of at a diagonal, and then start to lower the pelvis, crawl your back leg even further back. So you'll have to tuck your toes to do that, and then untuck. Then you can take your prop right in front of your belly and then fold over. You can come all the way down to your forearms, or maybe even stick a prop under your forearms. I'm going to offer a third eye option to stimulate. So I would recommend probably a prop under the arms for this. You would bring your hands like you're doing a prayer, but you spread your fingers wide and you'd stick your thumbs right on that third eye point, right in between your eyebrows. And it can be very centering, very grounding. And so you'll kind of feel it. It feels a little sensitive to the touch. It feels a little sore usually. And that's how you know you're in the right spot. It's a pressure point. So kind of you'll detect some sort of sensitivity when you find it. And we'll be here for about 10 or so breaths, stimulating that third eye point, that place of intuition, of seeing the unseen. We'll make our way out of this pose however you like. Most people will just roll to the side onto their back. You can lie on your belly. You could even sit up. Whatever you need to do to pause and really take in what shifted from that pose. So oftentimes it feels like a leg gets longer or just more blood flow at the very least. And then we'll pick ourselves up and do it all again. So bending the knees, rolling to one side, and we'll come right back up. All right. So coming back to hands and knees, take your left knee behind your left wrist, sweep that left foot across your mat, and then start to crawl back. Untuck your back toes once you lengthen back. Now you could stimulate your third eye again, but if you're feeling a little sensitive, maybe, one time around's enough, but if it feels interesting, you can do that. We already are intuitive. It just, this stimulating this area brings it forth. It reminds us of our intuition. All right, we'll come out of this pose. You can lie in any direction you choose. Pausing again and observing what moved, what opened up. And really, this is a wonderful practice for the full moon because we can clear out and open to the new cycle that's to come. We can make space for it. All right, and then let's come up to seated. Let's do a little more stuff for the shoulders. And you'll just sit in any comfortable position you like, prop if you want. So we're gonna do a little eagle arms. And there's a lot of versions of this. So we're gonna start off with the most accessible one. So you'll open your arms. Identify your right arm, take your right arm under, left arm over, give yourself a hug. From here, start to crawl your fingertips a little further back behind you. And this might be where you stay. And there's plenty of work to be had just here. So you want to keep pressing the arms into one another, sitting up tall. So you can either stay here, or if the elbows are hooked already, see if you can take your forearms and have the back of your forearms touch. See if that's sustainable, or you could even wrap the arms around another time so it's like your palms touch. So you have 3 options. So for all 3 options, whatever you're choosing, press your arms into one another. So the arms are actually very active. And then again, for all three options, press your arms and shoulders down so the sides of your neck become long. Now take the back of your skull, the base of your skull, and lift it up as much as you're pressing your shoulders down. Okay, the last cue. Imagine you have 100 inflatable balloons in front of you. And at the bottom of these balloons, they're all attached to a hook. And someone takes that hook and places it right at your elbows. So imagine your elbows pivot a little bit forward and up, like those inflatable balloons are pointing those elbows forward and up. You might feel a bit of shoulder blade as a result. You can move your head around if your neck feels tense. We'll take 10 breaths here. Let's take one more inhale. And as you exhale, unravel and just pause, check in with your body. Notice what energy is moving through your arms, out of your fingertips, out of your palms, across your shoulders, maybe up your neck. And then we'll do the other side. So we'll open the arms wide, identify your left arm under this time. You can either give yourself a hug, and I would recommend crawling your fingers back a little bit more here. Either stay here or wrap your arms once or twice. And then pull your arms and your shoulders down, but at the same time, make the back of your neck long. Lift the back of your skull up. Shoulders down. Now take your arms and drag them forward, almost like there's a magnet across the room from you and your arms are metal. And the magnet is just pulling your arms all the way forward. Okay, lastly, visualize those 100 inflatable balloons with a hook attached. Someone comes by and takes that hook right at your elbows. Let your elbows pull forward and up, like those balloons are pulling them to the sky. Be here for a little bit. You can move your head around if your neck feels questionably stiff. Breathing into where you're noticing all that stretching right at the shoulder blades, back of the heart. Let's take one more breath and let it unwind, and just take a moment, feel what is moving energetically through your body. So it could be the arms and the hands, but it could be other areas of the body affected as well. See if you can search for any and all sensations. Okay. And then we're going to lie on our back, and I recommend some sort of prop under your sacrum for waterfall pose. So find that, and then we'll lie down. I'm going to use a block, but you can use whatever you have. You could even do your legs up the wall as an alternative. Lie down and bridge the hips up. Stick a prop under the sacrum. And then you can just float the feet to the sky. Make sure you feel comfortable. You might readjust that block ever so often. And we'll hang out here for a little bit of time, about a minute. If you want to kind of move your feet around, circle your ankles. This is an inversion. This is stimulates the lymphatic drainage, which is part of your detoxification system. Your lymphatic system is. We'll make our way out of this pose into our final pose, full surrender pose, Shavasana. So lowering your feet to the ground and just letting the blood settle first before we bridge our hips off the prop. And then as you're ready, you can remove your prop, and then maybe it feels nice to hug your knees in and massage along your low back first before you take your legs long, but you can come into whatever version works for you tonight. Make sure you're comfortable. It's extra grounding to put some, like a blanket or a little weight on your hips, on your pelvis, maybe like could even be a pillow. That can have a really nice grounding effect. And then we're going to let go of all effort, let go of controlling our breath, let go of efforting in the body, and just take a moment here to lay on the earth, let the earth hold us up, and rest. Shavasana. Start to transition into this room, back into your body. You can start to re-emerge, wiggling your fingers and toes and moving about your wrists and ankles. And eventually you'll make your way up to a comfortable seat. And once we arrive at our seat, I think there's something very special about this seat, the Sukhasana easy pose, and feeling the support, the universal support of both the earth and sky. So as you sit here, can you feel the low body heavy like a sandbag weighing into the earth? Feeling the earth lifting up to hold your legs, your sitting bones, your feet. And then equally, can you feel the sky pulling the top of your head up to the sky, straightening out your own spine, kind of feeling these two opposite energies holding us here. And then bringing the hands together at the heart. Kind of the heart is the center of these two energies, the earth and sky. And we'll rub the palms together, generating a little bit of warmth, a little bit of heat. We'll seal our practice with 3 ohms tonight, and you are muted, those who are live in the class, so I won't hear you, but you can also just listen if you prefer. Take your thumbs to your heart. We'll take a full breath, followed by 3 ohms. Inhale fully, exhale fully. Inhale for 3 ohms. We'll bow the thinking mind to the caring heart. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share your practice. It is truly an honor to serve you. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, peace.